Captain Alina Rourke had seen many strange things in her career. She had faced hostile planets, rogue AI, and even black market raiders in uncharted systems. But nothing could have prepared her for the day the Zerati court summoned her. The message arrived in a holographic envelope, projected directly into the command room of the USS Perseus, the human exploratory vessel she commanded. The Zerati were a race of alien warriors, taller than humans, with translucent skin that shimmered in different colors depending on their mood. They were known for their strict traditions and dangerous rites of passage. Usually, humans had very little contact with them, most of it formal, diplomatic, or distant. Yet the message was simple, direct, and utterly confusing. Captain Alina Rourke, by decree of the Zerati court, you are hereby ordered to serve as a guide to our newly adult warriors during their first trial. Alina read it twice. She tapped her communicator to check for any hidden meanings. This has to be a mistake, she muttered. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Harris, raised an eyebrow. Guide their warriors? You mean like a training officer? I don't know, Alina admitted. I've trained humans, sure, but these are aliens. Dangerous aliens. And this is a trial. Probably a deadly one. She frowned. And yet, apparently, the highest court in their civilization thinks I am qualified. Something. A week later, she found herself standing in the Zerati council chamber, a circular room carved out of crystalline walls that glowed softly. Light refracted off the surfaces, painting the chamber in shifting patterns of blues, purples, and golds. The Zerati elders sat in high chairs that floated slightly above the ground. Their limbs long and graceful, their eyes deep, unblinking silver. You have arrived, said Elder Terry, the lead judge, his voice like wind brushing over ice. Alina noted the subtle color changes in his skin, shimmering silver with hints of violet. We have observed your exploits. You possess qualities our people admire: courage, decisiveness, and adaptability. Alina kept her tone respectful, but cautious. Thank you, Elder Terry. I'm honored, but I must admit, I'm not entirely sure why you need a human to guide your warriors. A faint ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. Your kind is different, Terry said carefully. Humans solve problems in ways that we do not. You see paths we might ignore. That perspective is necessary for our young adults. They have reached the age of trial. Their first test is a rite of passage, but they are inexperienced. Alina frowned. And my role is, you will guide them. You will not fight for them, but you will lead, teach, and ensure they survive. Terry's silver eyes locked with hers. Failure is not an option. The words sank in. She had led humans in countless operations, but leading alien warriors through their most dangerous ceremonial trial was unprecedented. Before she could ask more, the chamber doors opened, and a group of Zerati youths entered. They were tall and lithe, their skin glowing faintly in greens and blues. Some had long tendrils of hair-like fibers that floated gently in zero-gravity fields, while others had ridges on their forearms and shoulders that hinted at physical strength. The youth's eyes all silver studied Alina with curiosity and skepticism. They spoke among themselves in a melodic, clicking language, though one of the elders gestured, and a translator device allowed Alina to hear their words clearly. Who is this human? One of them asked, his voice sharp, youthful, and defiant. She's our guide, said a more cautious youth, glancing at the elders. The court says so. Alina held up a hand in greeting. Hello, I'm Captain Alina Rourke. I'm here to help you through the trial. A ripple of whispers went through the group. Alina noticed that most of the youths seemed tall and muscular, already impressive by human standards. But their movements were formal, almost rigid. Tradition was clearly important to them. One of them, a female named Sira, looked her over with something between suspicion and awe. You will need to trust me, Alina, said gently. I know this trial is dangerous. I've been in dangerous situations before, and I can help you survive it. The youths stared. One of them laughed, a strange sound that echoed off the crystalline walls. Survive? He said. The trial is our proving ground. Humans survive. How? By thinking, observing, and sometimes doing the unexpected, Alina replied. She noticed a few of the youths frown. Clearly her words didn't match their usual methods. But she didn't flinch. If she could teach them to combine their skills with human ingenuity, she might just save lives. Elder Terry rose, his voice echoing through the chamber. The trial begins tomorrow at sunrise. You, human, will accompany them to the arena. Observe, advise, and ensure the youths understand the rules. Intervene only if necessary. Their success or survival depends on both their actions and your guidance. Alina nodded. Understood. After the council concluded, the youths were led away to prepare. Alina stayed behind, looking at the glowing chamber and thinking, this is unlike anything I've ever faced. And yet, maybe humans have something to teach these warriors. Maybe our way of thinking will matter more than I realized that night. Alina walked the corridors of the Ziratai Palace, observing the youths from a distance. She saw them training, performing rituals, moving through exercises she didn't fully understand. They were disciplined, precise, strong, but rigid. She remembered what Terry had said. Humans see paths they might ignore. Alina smiled faintly. That would be her role. To guide them, to help them survive not by brute force, but by creative thinking, adaptability, and quick decisions. Morning arrived quickly, and with it, the first assembly outside the palace. The youths gathered in the arena, massive open space that seemed to stretch endlessly. With towering walls of stone and metal, strange glowing flora, and shifting terrain, it was both beautiful and intimidating, designed to challenge every sense and skill. Alina studied the arena carefully. All right, she said to the youths. This is your trial. It's going to test your strength, your mind, and your courage. But remember, it's also unpredictable. If you rely only on tradition, you may fail. You have to think differently, and I'll help you do that. Some youths bristled. Different? Right, one said. The trial is tradition. We follow tradition, yes, Alina said firmly. But sometimes, tradition isn't enough. You have to use every skill you have, including new ones. That's what will make you successful. Silence followed. The youths seemed to be measuring her words, trying to decide if she was a threat or an ally. Finally, Sira stepped forward. Her voice was steady but curious. Then teach us human. Show us your way, and we will see if it is worthy. Alina nodded, feeling a spark of hope. Good, that's all I ask. Listen, try, and don't be afraid to fail. We'll learn together. As the sun rose over the alien arena, casting long shadows on the shimmering ground, Alina felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. These youths lives in perhaps the relationship between humans and the Ziratide depended on her ability to guide them. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. This is it. No turning back now, and with that. The trial was about to begin. Asterisk, the first light of the alien sunrise fell across the arena, casting long, sharp shadows over its shifting terrain. Captain Alina Rourke stood at the edge, watching the young Zirati warriors line up. Their postures were stiff, formal, almost statuesque, as if they were afraid to move incorrectly. Alina could feel the tension in the air, the kind of tension that could snap like a wire under pressure. All right, she said firmly, her voice carrying clearly across the arena. You've trained for this, yes. You've prepared for the rituals. But now you need to think for yourselves. The arena is not just a place for strength. It tests your mind, your courage, and how you work together. Every step you take will matter. The youths exchanged glances. Some nodded, some frowned, and one, the same youth who had laughed at her yesterday, crossed his arms defiantly. Alina ignored him for now. She had learned early in her career that rebellious soldiers often became the most useful if guided correctly. At the center of the arena, a series of gates slid open, revealing the first challenge. The youths gasped. The arena was not flat. It was a maze of tall, irregular walls that shifted periodically, forming new pathways and dead ends. The walls seemed alive, pulsating slightly with a strange energy. Alina realized that this would not be solved by brute force. They had to navigate carefully and observe patterns. See that? Alina pointed. The walls move at intervals. Watch the patterns. You can predict them if you pay attention. Don't rush in blindly. Use your eyes and your minds. One of the youths, a tall male named Kieran, stepped forward. His shoulders were broad and he moved with the confidence of someone who had never failed. He glanced at Alina skeptically. "And what if we just run?" he asked. "We are strong." "That is enough." Alina shook her head. Strength is only part of the equation. Sometimes the fastest path is not the safest. Sometimes the cleverest path wins. Kieran scowled, but didn't argue further. Alina could see some of the other youths studying her. Their curiosity piqued despite their hesitation. Sira, the female who had shown interest in learning, leaned slightly forward, ready to listen. "Follow me," Alina said, stepping carefully into the first corridor. She paused, observing the wall's subtle shifts. "See, every 10 steps, the walls rotate slightly. We can use that to our advantage." The youths hesitated, but follow. The next morning, the arena was different. The soft glow of sunrise reflected off the crystalline walls. But the air was tense, heavy with the promise of new challenges. Captain Alina Rourke studied the arena carefully. Today would not be a simple test of skill or courage. It was designed to push the Zarate youths to their limits. The first challenge appeared quickly. From hidden panels along the arena floor, a series of energy barriers and shifting platforms activated. The youths froze, unsure how to proceed. Alina noticed the patterns immediately. "Listen," she said, keeping her voice calm. "The platforms move in a repeating sequence. Watch carefully, then step. Timing is everything. If you hesitate too long, you'll be left behind." Kieran stepped forward first. His confidence had grown since yesterday, but now uncertainty shadowed his face. The barrier emitted a low hum, almost like a warning. Alina gestured. "Don't rush. One step at a time. Move with purpose, not force." Slowly, the youths began crossing, following Alina's guidance. Mistakes were made, but nothing catastrophic. For a moment, it seemed as if the trial would proceed as planned. Then, without warning, the arena shook violently. The walls trembled, and some of the previously stable platforms tilted dangerously. Alina's instincts kicked in immediately. "Everyone, hold fast. Brace yourselves." One youth, Rethon, slipped on a tilting platform and almost fell into a deep pit below. Alina lunged, grabbing him by the arm and yanking him to safety. His silver eyes widened in shock and fear. I didn't expect this," he gasped. "This is part of the trial," Alina said firmly. "Expect the unexpected. Survival depends on staying alert and trusting one another."
Ow!
The youths looked around. Creatures that were meant to simulate predators, small, sleek, and fast, had emerged from hidden chambers. Alina quickly assessed the situation. These predators were too fast for most of the youths to handle alone, and their attacks were unpredictable. "Form a group," she shouted. "Do not fight them individually. Use coordination. Watch each other's backs." The youths hesitated, but Alina's urgency left no room for argument. Slowly, they formed a defensive circle, mirroring the formations Alina had taught human soldiers. The predators struck in waves, but the youths, guided by Alina, moved strategically. They blocked attacks, supported those who stumbled, and used the arena's terrain to their advantage. Alina noticed Kieran adjusting his stance, observing the predators instead of charging blindly. "Good," she said under her breath. "You're learning." Hours passed in a blur of movement, strategy, and quick thinking. Alina directed the youths through the predator swarm, teaching them to anticipate attacks, to lure enemies into traps, and to protect one another. The experience was intense, exhausting, but valuable. At one point, Sierra shouted, pointing to a glowing rift in the arena floor. "The predators are moving toward the pit. We can lead them in and trap them." Alina smiled. "Exactly. That's what I mean by thinking ahead. Use the arena to your advantage. Don't just react, plan. With careful coordination, the group maneuvered the predators into the pit. A sudden surge of energy emitted from the arena floor, and the creatures were neutralized. The youths cheered, relief and pride shining in their silver eyes. But there was no time to celebrate. The arena changed again. Platforms collapsed, walls shifted faster, and the lighting dimmed, casting eerie shadows. A new sound echoed a low, mechanical rumble. Elena's instincts told her the trial was escalating. "Stay close to me," she shouted. "Move as a team. Trust your eyes and ears." Suddenly, a group of large, heavily armored predator drones emerged. Unlike the previous creatures, these were intelligent, adaptive, and dangerous. The youths froze, fear clear on their faces. Elena stepped forward, assessing their weaknesses. "These aren't like the others," she said. "You can't fight them head-on. They respond to attacks. We need to outsmart them, not overpower them." The youths hesitated. Their culture emphasized strength and bravery, but Elena knew that thinking and adapting was the key. She gestured for Kieran to flank the drones, while Sira coordinated movement to block attacks. Elena herself led a small diversion, drawing the drones toward a narrow corridor where their size and speed would be disadvantageous. The plan worked. Using a combination of speed, observation, and teamwork, the youths trapped the drones in a corner. Elena signaled, and they disabled the machines without serious injury. Breathing heavily, Elena turned to the youths. "You see, strength alone is not enough. You need strategy, awareness, and trust in one another." For the first time, she noticed a shift in the group's mindset. They had begun to embrace her guidance, combining human tactics with their natural abilities. Kieran, once defiant, now nodded in agreement. Rethan, who had been reckless, was careful and deliberate. Sira's leadership emerged naturally, blending human guidance with her instincts. But the arena had one final surprise for the day. From the walls, a sudden surge of energy pulses swept across the terrain, activating a series of trap spikes emerging from the floor. Energy beams slicing across paths, and walls moving unpredictably. The youths had to navigate this new hazard under pressure. Elena realized that improvisation was the only way to survive. "Watch the patterns. Move together. Don't panic." She yelled that the youths moved cautiously, following her lead. They timed jumps across energy beams, ducked under spikes, and supported one another through narrow passages. Elena guided them through every danger, giving quick instructions and encouragement. At one point, a platform beneath Sira began to tilt. Elena grabbed her just in time, pulling her back to safety. Sira looked at Elena with wide eyes, admiration and gratitude mixed together. I didn't think we could do this," she whispered. Elena smiled. "You can do more than you think. You just needed the right guidance." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the arena finally stabilized. The challenges subsided, leaving the youths exhausted but alive. Elena looked at them, pride swelling in her chest. They had faced predators, mechanical threats, deadly terrain, all while learning to work together and trust human guidance. Elder Terry appeared on a high platform overlooking the arena. His silver eyes observed silently. "You have guided them well," he said finally. "But the trial is not over. Tomorrow, the challenges will test not only skill and strategy, but character. Be ready, human." "And be ready, young warriors," Lena nodded. "We'll be ready." That night, the youths gathered near the arena's edge, tending to minor injuries and resting. For the first time, they spoke openly about their experiences. Kieran approached Elena cautiously. "I didn't think I would say this," he admitted, "but I trust you your way. It works." Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. "Good. That's all I can ask. Trust, listen, and think. That is what survival demands," Sira added quietly. "We are stronger because of your guidance." "We understand that now." Lena felt a quiet satisfaction. The youths were learning, adapting, and growing. Human ingenuity had begun to make a difference in a culture that valued tradition above all, As she watched the stars appear in the alien sky, Alina knew that tomorrow would bring even greater challenges. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. She had faced the arena with these young warriors and had made them see the value of thinking differently, of trusting one another, and of using their minds as much as their strength. And as far as she could tell, that was exactly what the Zerati court had wanted her to do. The trial had escalated. Danger had intensified, and yet, for the first time, the human and Zerati partnership felt real, strong, and capable. Alina knew the days ahead would be tougher. She also knew they were ready to face whatever the arena threw at them next. The trial was far from over. Asterisk. The arena was quiet that morning, but the silence felt heavy. Captain Alina Rourke stood at the edge, watching the Zerati youths prepare themselves. Their faces were tense, their silver eyes alert, and their bodies coiled like springs ready to act. The challenges so far had tested their strength, their courage, and their ability to adapt under pressure. But today, the trial would test something: deeper judgment, creativity, and character. Alina looked at the young warriors. Kieran adjusted his stance, Rethon flexed his fingers nervously, and Sira, as calm as ever, met Alina's gaze. "Remember," Alina said quietly, "today is about choice. You must decide, together, the best way forward. Tradition is important, but sometimes thinking differently is what saves lives." The first challenge of the day was deceptively simple. A vast chasm split the arena in two, with narrow, unstable bridges of energy spanning the gap. Across the chasm was the next section of the trial. Past experience had taught Alina that this was not merely a test of courage, it was a test of leadership and cooperation. One wrong move, and someone could fall. The youths hesitated at the edge. Kieran glanced at the traditional markings etched into the walls of the arena, reminders of Zerati customs. "We must cross as the elders teach," he muttered. "One at a time, strong and fast." Alina shook her head. "That's one way, but it isn't the only way. If you try to cross alone, you risk failure. If you work together, you increase your chances of success." Rathan scoffed. "Work together? We are warriors. We do not depend on others to succeed." "You can, and you should," Alina said firmly. "Strength is in unity, as well as in skill. Watch the patterns of the bridges, help each other, and communicate. That is your best chance." The youths exchanged uncertain glances. Sira stepped forward. "Perhaps she is right," she said softly. "We do not need to reject tradition entirely, but we can add new ways to survive." Kieran hesitated. His pride wrestled with practicality. Finally, he nodded. "Fine, but only if we follow the plan carefully." Alina smiled. "Good. Now, let's cross." Step by step, the youths moved across the first bridge, guided by Alina's instructions, timing their movements to the shifts of the unstable platforms. They supported one another when someone slipped, whispered warnings of sudden tilts, and adjusted as the energy beams beneath them pulsed unpredictably, halfway across. The bridge beneath Rethan wobbled dangerously. Alina acted instantly, grabbing his arm and steadying him. "Trust the team," she shouted. Rethan's eyes widened, and he nodded. Realizing he was not alone, once all of them reached the far side safely, Alina pointed to the next stage. Beyond the bridge was a maze of luminous crystal corridors, filled with optical illusions, false paths, and dead ends. The Zerati tradition was to navigate these mazes using instinct and memory, relying on pre-learned patterns and rituals. Alina saw the opportunity to teach them something new. "Tradition will take you part of the way," she said, "but the maze will not behave as expected. You need to think differently. Observe the reflections, notice repeated shapes, and communicate. Only that way will you reach the center." The youths hesitated. Kieran glanced at Alina skeptically. "We have never done it this way." "How do we know it will work?" "You don't," Alina admitted. "But it can. You have the skills. You just need to use them differently." Sira and a few others nodded, willing to try. Slowly, they began observing patterns, sharing observations, and guiding each other through the maze. Alina watched carefully, stepping in only when necessary, allowing them to make decisions, solve problems, and learn from small mistakes without serious risk. Suddenly, the maze shifted violently, closing off one corridor and opening another. The youths froze. Panic began to rise. Alina took a deep breath. Stay calm, breathe, observe. There is always a way forward if you think and cooperate. Kieran clenched his jaw. We have to trust her, or we fail. Finally, Sira stepped forward with confidence. Follow me, she said. We can use the reflections on the walls to find the safe path. I will lead. The youths followed, carefully analyzing each turn. With Elena's guidance, they navigated the maze, combining tradition with new strategies. By the time they reached the central chamber, they were exhausted but enlivened, more importantly, stronger together. But the trial was far from over. In the center of the chamber was the final test, a giant mechanical construct designed to test judgment and adaptability. It had multiple arms, each wielding a different weapon or obstacle, and it moved with unpredictable patterns. The Elder's instructions were clear. Defeat the construct to complete the trial. Kieran immediately prepared to charge, relying on his strength. Rethan readied a traditional Zirati weapon, eyes narrowed. Sira looked at Alina. What do we do? She asked quietly. Alina surveyed the construct. Strength alone will not defeat it. Speed alone will not work. You have to think, anticipate, and combine your talents. Watch its movements, exploit weaknesses, and cooperate. And remember, sometimes the clever solution is not the most obvious. The youths glanced at each other nervously. This was the moment they had been trained for all their lives. But it was also a moment where human ingenuity could make the difference. Kieran started to move, testing the construct's reactions. One of its arms swung unexpectedly, knocking him off balance. Alina shouted, Hold, wait. Observe its pattern. The youths paused, studying the construct. Slowly, they noticed a rhythm. Every 3 movements, one arm paused briefly. Elena's eyes lit up. That's your opportunity. Strike together when it pauses. Timing is everything. The youths nodded. Working as a unit, they coordinated their attacks. Kieran drew the construct's attention, while Sira and others struck at its exposed points. Alina provided guidance, signaling when to move, when to block, when to wait. The construct struggled, faltering under their combined strategy. Finally, after a tense, exhausting battle, it collapsed with a low roar. Signaling the successful completion of the trial, the youths cheered, relief and pride evident on every face. They had not only survived, but had succeeded by making choices, thinking creatively, and working together. Alina allowed herself a rare smile. She had guided them without taking control, teaching them the value of independent thought. Elder Terry appeared again, his eyes scanning the group. You have made the correct choice, he said. You combined tradition with innovation. You prove courage, judgment, and unity. Inhuman. Guidance has not been without merit. The youths beamed with pride. Kieran approached Alina, his usual arrogance softened. I didn't think I would admit this, he said. But your way, it works. You've taught us something valuable. Sira nodded. We understand now. Strength alone is not enough. Thinking, choosing, and cooperating are just as important. Lena placed a hand on Sira's shoulder. That's exactly it. You didn't fail. You adapted. You made the right choices. That is what survival and leadership requires. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the arena, Alina looked at the young warriors. She knew that the trial had changed them. They had grown stronger, not just in skill, but in wisdom and judgment. Human guidance had shown them a different way, without taking away their identity or culture. For the first time, Alina felt that her role as a human soldier in the Zirati trial had made a lasting impact. She had taught the youth something vital. Sometimes courage and strength are not enough. Sometimes, the right choice made together. With thought and cares, what makes a warrior truly great? Elder Terry spoke once more before disappearing into the shadows. You have passed the trial not just by surviving, but by thinking. Remember this lesson, young warriors. Inhuman. You have proven your worth. Lena watched the youths gather, exhausted but victorious. The trial had pushed them to their limits. It had forced them to think differently, adapt, and trust not only her, but each other. As the night settled over the arena, Alina knew that tomorrow would bring reflection, celebration, and perhaps the start of a lasting bond between humans and Zirati. For now, the crucial choices had been made, and the youths had risen to the challenge. Stronger and wiser than before, the trial had reached its peak, and Alina allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They were ready for whatever came next. The arena was quiet at first light, the air heavy with anticipation. Captain Alina Rourke stood at the edge, watching the young Zirati warriors prepare themselves for the final day. Yesterday's trial had tested their courage, strategy, and unity. Today it was about reflection, mastery, and recognition. The youths moved with a new sense of confidence. Kieran no longer carried the arrogance of untested pride. Rethon had replaced recklessness with careful observation, and Sira, calm and decisive, had become a natural leader among them. Alina could feel the subtle changes in their movements and expressions. They had truly grown. Today, she began, her voice carrying clearly across the arena, you will complete the final stage. But this is more than physical skill. You have survived the obstacles, the predators, and the challenges. Now, you must prove your wisdom and teamwork. The choices you make today will show what kind of warriors you have become. The first challenge of the day appeared, a vast field filled with shifting terrain, unpredictable traps, and scattered relics from Zirati history. Some were weapons, some ancient artifacts, and some seemed to test agility and intellect simultaneously. Tradition dictated that the youths collect specific relics in order, demonstrating knowledge of history and skill, Alina observed. You know the tradition, she said, but remember success comes not only from following it blindly. You have to adapt, communicate, and trust one another. Use your minds and your strength together. The youths glanced at her, a mix of respect and curiosity in their eyes. Sira nodded firmly. We understand. We can do this together. Kieran gritted his teeth, then spoke quietly to his group. We follow the path, but we remain alert. Every step matters. Watch each other. Alina felt a surge of pride. Their words showed they had embraced not only her guidance, but also the value of independent thought. They were ready. The group moved carefully across the field, observing the traps and testing the relics. One relic, a glowing orb, hovered above a pit of shifting energy. Rethon rushed forward instinctively, but Alina grabbed his arm just in time. Wait. Observe first. Don't act out of habit or pride. Rethan's eyes widened, and he nodded, allowing Sira and Kieran to plan their approach. Together, they devised a method. Kieran would anchor a support beam. Sira would extend a platform, and Rethon would carefully retrieve the orb. The plan worked perfectly. Alina smiled. See? Cooperation and thinking first strength comes second. That is the lesson. The field presented another challenge, a series of energy barriers that reacted to movement, weight, and sound. Traditionally, Zirati youths would rush through using speed and agility, often triggering alarms and traps. Alina shook her head. That's the old way. It doesn't have to be dangerous if you work together and observe. Sira led the group, whispering instructions and coordinating movements. They timed each step carefully, moving silently across the field. Kieran adjusted his footing. Rethon followed her signals. And even the more stubborn youths began to trust one another. By midday, the group reached the final obstacle, a towering construct of shifting panels and energy beams, designed to test balance, coordination, and strategy. The elders' instructions were clear. Reach the top using only skill, logic, and teamwork. Kieran glanced at the construct. We've faced worse, he said, trying to reassure himself. Alina studied it. This is not just strength or speed. You need judgment. Watch the movements, anticipate patterns, and communicate. One wrong step could send you back to the start or worse. The youths approached the construct carefully. Each movement was deliberate, guided by observation and calculation rather than recklessness. Alina watched as Sira led a small team, helping those who faltered and signaling paths that were safer. Kieran used his strength to stabilize unstable panels, while Rethan checked for traps. At one point, a panel beneath Kieran tilted dangerously. Alina shouted, "Brace yourself." Rethan, hold the panel steady. The two youths worked together, stabilizing the surface, and Alina guided the rest of the group to safety. For the first time, the arena felt like a team effort, not a test of individual prowess. Finally, the group reached the top. The sun, now high in the sky, shone brightly through the crystalline walls, illuminating the victorious warriors. They stood together, exhausted, but triumphant. Alina could see pride in their eyes, not just pride in survival, but pride in learning to trust, think, and cooperate. Elder Terry appeared on the observation platform. "You have completed the trial," he announced, his voice echoing across the arena. "Not only have you survived, but you have also proven wisdom, judgment, and teamwork. You have combined tradition with innovation. You have embraced human guidance without losing yourselves." The youths bowed respectfully to the elder, their expressions a mixture of awe and gratitude. Then, one by one, they turned to Alina. Kieran stepped forward first. "Captain Rourke," he said, voice steady, We respect you. Your guidance made us stronger, smarter, and more capable. We would not have succeeded without your help."
Alrika nodded.
"I learned something important. Strength alone is not enough. Thinking and working together can be even more powerful." Asira smiled at Alina. "We understand that now. Thank you for teaching us not by doing it for us, but by showing us how to make the right choices ourselves." Alina felt a warm satisfaction she had rarely experienced. She had led humans in countless missions, but this, teaching alien youths, guiding them through a trial of life, courage, and judgment, was something different, something meaningful. "You did all the work," she said softly. "I just helped you see a different way. The choices, the courage, the teamwork, they were all yours. Remember that. That is what makes a true warrior." The elder spoke again. "Captain, your role has been remarkable. Your presence here has shown that humans can offer wisdom beyond our traditions. You have strengthened not only the youths, but also the bond between our peoples." Alina bowed slightly. "Thank you, Elder Tyree. I am honored." The youths gathered their things, preparing to leave the arena. They walked with a sense of accomplishment, their posture more confident, their movements more coordinated. Alina watched them, pride swelling in her chest. They had grown, adapted, and embraced both tradition and innovation. As they exited, Sira turned back. "Will you stay with us, human, for future training?" she asked. Alina laughed softly. "I wish I could. But I have my own world to protect. But I will always be ready to help if you need guidance again." Kieran grinned, a rare, unguarded smile. "Then we will make you proud." That evening, the Zirati court held a ceremonial feast in the warrior's honor. Alina sat among the youths, listening to their stories and laughter. The elders acknowledged her presence repeatedly. Recognizing the role she had played in guiding these new warriors, Alina reflected quietly. Humans and Zirati were different, yes. But courage, creativity, and teamwork were universal. Today had proven it. The stars began to shine over the crystalline city as Alina stepped outside the palace. The arena, the trials, the lessons, they were all behind her now. She knew the young warriors would carry what they had learned into the future, stronger and wiser. And perhaps, she thought with a quiet smile, humans and Zirati could face the universe together. Learning from one another and growing stronger as allies, Alina looked up at the sky. For a moment, the vastness of space felt smaller, friendlier, and full of possibility. The trial had ended, but the lessons, the courage, the wisdom, the unity would last forever. She turned back toward the city, ready to return to her ship. The youths waved, a silent acknowledgement of respect and gratitude, and as she walked away, she realized something profound. Humans were not just survivors or fighters. They were teachers, innovators, and bridges between worlds. The trial was over. The youths were stronger. And Alina had earned more than respect. She had earned a place in the hearts and minds of a proud alien culture. The stars above twinkled. The night air shimmered with quiet energy. And Captain Alina Rourke knew that this was only the beginning of a lasting bond. Human ingenuity, courage, and guidance had proven their worth. And for the first time, she felt truly at peace, knowing that her species had left a mark on another, teaching them not just to fight, but to think, to trust, and to grow. The arena was empty now, silent but full of memories. And somewhere among the stars, a new generation of Zerati warriors would carry forward the lessons of a human soldier who had dared to guide them through the impossible. Captain Lena Rourke smiled. Humanity had once again shown that even in the far reaches of the galaxy, it could lead, inspire, and endure. And for the Zerati youths, today was the day they learned what it truly meant to be a warrior.